Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy DLloyd, and we are here for the playoffs, you guys. So as usual, we're going to go ahead, have a little playoff preview, go over the final standings, go over the awards, MVPs, offensive rookies of the years, all that good stuff. Then want to go over our team stats and the league leaders. Then we'll go ahead and simulate this week and see who we're going to be taking on next week. Since we do have a first round bye, we do not have to worry about the playoffs. So first thing is first, let's go ahead, take a look at the final standings, you guys. Obviously, we started the season 14-0, but we ended up losing our last two games. We finished with a 14-2 record. The Washington Redskins, they finished with a 15-1 record, so they have the best record in football. You have the New England Patriots, who are second, but when you take a look specifically at the AFC, we have home field advantage throughout the playoffs with our record. Patriots, they have a bye. The New York Jets are in, the Jacksonville Jaguars in, the San Diego Chargers are in, and then the Cleveland Browns are all in the playoffs, you guys. So a pretty, balanced out playoff system in the AFC. Taking a look at the NFC, some of the teams aren't as good, but you have the Washington Redskins, obviously, with a home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Throughout the playoffs, you got the Seattle Seahawks, who have a bye. Philadelphia Eagles are in there. The Detroit Lions are in there. Then you got the the New Orleans Saints and the St. Louis Rams, who all made the playoffs as well in the NFC. So now going ahead and taking a look at the stats for this season, taking a look at the awards first, so you guys go ahead and see who won the MVP and all that good stuff. And once again, the MVP is going to Marcus Mariota, and he missed a lot again. I think he missed about 4 games maybe this season, and he still was able to win MVP, but he was balling before he went out with that injury. Jay Gruden is going to be the coach of the year. We just missed out on that award, probably because we lost the last game of the season. Now going to conference awards, offensive player of the year is going to Ryan Tannehill, who was able to beat up Mariota. CJ Carr was there as well. It seemed like he had a pretty down year, but the guy was still racking up a lot of touchdowns, and we'll see his stats later on in the video. Danny Trevathan is the defensive player of the year. Offensive rookie of the year goes to Jackson Blake for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Crimson Hyde is defensive rookie of the year. Best quarterback goes to Marcus Mariota. CJ Carr gets the best running back award. Josh Gordon is going to get the best receiver award, and this guy balled for us all season. And then Martavis Bryant, he is 3rd on this list. Michael Floyd is 7th on this list. So we got a lot of receivers on this best receiver list. Best offensive lineman, we got 2. Taylor Lewan ended up winning, but we get Chance Warmack up here as well. So very good for our offensive line. Our defensive line goes to Sheldon Richardson for best defensive line of the year. Danny Trevathan, again, he gets best linebacker. Best defensive back goes to Chris Harris Jr. from the Denver Broncos. And then best kicker is going to our kicker, Jordan Gay. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the NFC. You have Teddy Bridgewater playing for the Detroit Lions. He gets the offensive player of the year over Aaron Rodgers. And then Carl Bradford gets defensive player of the year. Justin Finnegan, offensive rookie of the year for the Redskins. You get Jesus Ellison getting defensive rookie of the year for the Buccaneers. Best quarterback goes to Aaron Rodgers. Best running back goes to Marshawn Lynch, who's now playing for the Chicago Bears. Best receiver, you have Des Bryant. Best offensive lineman, Brandon Linder. Best defensive lineman goes to Fletcher Cox. Best linebacker, Bobby Wagner. Best defensive back, Kamal Ishmael. And then best kicker goes to Patrick Murray. So that is all the awards for this season. We were able to take home quite a few of those, but now let's go ahead and take a look at our stats as a team. Then we'll look at the league leaders. Mariota had a crazy season, guys. 142.9 quarterback rating throughout the whole season, just under 4,000 yards passing. He for sure would have went over that if he did not go down with the injury. 37 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, and 2 of those interceptions came in the last game when he came back from injury. He got sacked 29 times, completed 75% of his passes, and almost averaged 300 yards a game. So Mariota had a crazy season, but Andy Jackson didn't do that bad either. 12 touchdowns and 4 interceptions during his rookie campaign, especially when he had to come in and play. CJ Carr had 235 carries, so a nice amount of carries. Went over 1,000 yards, 1,030 yards rushing, 4.4 yards a carry, and he had 19 rushing touchdowns. No fumbles. CJ Carr, he had a pretty good year. 45 broken tackles, 238 yards after the first contact. So CJ Carr, in a down year for him, he still had a fantastic year overall when you look at running backs. Receivers, Martavis Bryant had 64 receptions. He went over 1,000 yards, had 8 touchdowns. Josh Gordon, 62 receptions, over 1,000 yards as well. He had 15 touchdowns. CJ Carr, just under 50 receptions on the year. He had 4 additional touchdowns. And then Michael Floyd, 44 receptions, 10 touchdowns. So a lot of our guys were getting a lot of touchdowns out here. Our tight ends were pretty much split evenly. Luke Wilson had 39 catches, 829 yards, 5 touchdowns. And then Malcolm Dorsey had 37 catches for 700 yards and 4 touchdowns. So our receivers pretty much did their thing this year. We spread the ball around evenly. Looking at defense, Denora Searcy led us with 127 total tackles. Tyrann Mathieu had 124 total tackles. Then you have Avery Williamson, Quay White, who pretty much took over for Ryan Shazier. I brought Ryan Shazier to be our second middle linebacker, but Quay White balled out when Shazier was hurt. I decided to keep Quay White in the rest of the year, and it definitely paid off because he had 22 tackles for a loss, you guys. So this guy had a fantastic year in his second season in the NFL. When we look at the tackles for loss, he led the way by far. Avery Williamson had 16, Derek Morgan had 15. Now see who led us in sacks. It was Derek Morgan with 9.5 sacks. Jarrell Casey had 8.5. Brian Arakpo had 8 sacks. And then Quay White, Avery Williamson, and Ray Nelson all had 3.5 sacks. Our interception leaders is going to go to Avery Williamson, who had 3. Tyrann Mathieu had 3. Denora Searcy 2. Jason McCourty 2. And then we got a couple of players with 1 sack. So that's pretty much, I think, all the stuff here. I don't know what kind of glitch this was. He had 65,533 fumble return yards. So I don't know what happened with that stat, but that has to be a record some way. But anyway, let's go ahead now and take a look at the actual NFL stats to see how we stacked up against the rest of the league. So let's go ahead and sort this by yards. Aaron Rodgers led the way with 4,600 yards passing this year. Teddy Bridgewater had 43. Jameis Winston 43. Matt Ryan had 4,000. Taylor Patterson went over 4,000. And then EJ Durham went over 4,000. So I'm pretty sure Mariota would have passed him if he would have played the whole season. Looking at touchdown leaders, Aaron Rodgers had 38 touchdowns, but he did have 20 interceptions. Mariota 37 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and then Ryan Tannehill 35 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. So those two are probably the most efficient quarterbacks out here. See who led the NFL in interceptions thrown, and that is going to be Joe Flacco with 23 interceptions thrown this season. Jackson Blake had 21, Aaron Rodgers 20, Duncan Bell 20, Simon Looney 20, and then Andy Dalton had 19 interceptions thrown this season. The quarterback who took the most sacks was also Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, Ryan Tannehill, Geno Smith. So those guys were getting sacked the most. Looking at quarterback completion percentage, see who threw the ball a lot. You had Matt Flynn with 83, but Mariota, he had 75%. Aaron Rodgers, 71%. Russell Wilson, 68%. So a couple of pretty accurate quarterbacks here, but obviously Mariota was the most accurate out of your consistent players who played a lot. Looking at running backs, Alfred Morris led the NFL with 1,400 yards. He went over 300 carries on the season. He had 6 touchdowns, averaged 4.8 yards a carry. LaShawn McCoy was second with 1,420 yards, exactly 300 carries this season, which is definitely great. 8 touchdowns. Jamal Charles was there. He got the ball less, and he averaged 5.4 yards a carry, 13 touchdowns. So a great year for him. Christine Michael taking over as the lead running back over there in Oakland. He had 1,300 yards. Yeah, Marshawn Lynch, Jonathan Stewart, a lot of guys going over that 1,000-yard mark. So we have to go down quite a ways before we find CJ Carr, who was finally here with 235 carries, 1,000 yards, average 4.4 yards a carry. Jeremy Hill was able to go over 1,000 yards on just 210 carries. So that is pretty good as well. The running back who had the most touchdowns is obviously CJ Carr, but Stephon Taylor was right behind him. Monte Ball was behind him, and then Jamal Charles was there as well. Then the running back who fumbled the most was Christine Michael with 11 fumbles on the season. Mariota had 10, Melvin Gordon had 10, Jonathan Stewart had 8. So a lot of fumbles from those guys right there. Looking at the receivers, Antonio Brown, 110 receptions on the year. Jordy Nelson, 109. Emmanuel Sanders, 104. So those 3 guys went over 100. Des Bryant was just 1 reception shy of going over 100 on the season. Julio Jones was up there as well. Allen Robinson, Julian Edelman, now playing for the Cardinals, was up there. So a lot of pretty good receivers actually this season. Dez Bryant led the way with 1,500 receiving yards. Antonio Brown was right behind that with 1,500 as well. Quite a few receivers going over 1,000. Obviously, we had 2 of those receivers. The most receiving touchdowns this year was Josh Gordon with 15. Dez Bryant was behind him with 14. Max Jordan, Devin Smith, Cecil Shorts, Eric Decker, Michael Floyd, Devontae Parker, Jordan Matthews, and Jordy Nelson all had 10 receiving touchdowns. And I don't think it tells you drops, so I don't think they calculate drops on this Madden anymore. So let's go ahead and take a look at defense real quick, and then we'll go ahead and simulate this week. So Carl Bradford had 198 total tackles. That is absolutely crazy, by far leading everybody, because Stephen Tulloch was second with 167 total tackles. CJ Mosley had 160 total, which is definitely good as well. Look at tackles for a loss. Who led that? Sheldon Richardson with 18. You had Avery Williamson with 16. QB sacks is Alden Smith with 18.5. Spencer Evans with 17. Fletcher Cox 16.5. Sheldon Richardson, Khalil Mack, and then the interception leader, is Kiko Alonso with 8 interceptions. Kamel Ishmael with 8. Chris Harris Jr., he's always going to be up there. Then they had the key to leave, so that Denver secondary is still out here balling. Xavier Rhodes, Darrell Revis has 6. Bobby Wagner has 6. And I think that's just about it. Luke Kuechly had 5 interceptions this year. And Vontaze Burfict was up there with 4 interceptions. So I think that is pretty much the most, or not the most, but all the stats we kind of need to look at. Danny Trevathan had the most forced fumbles. So did TJ McDonald, and Robert Lester had 5 forced fumbles. So we'll go ahead and we'll see who's playing each other in the wild card game. And then we'll go ahead and just simulate this week and see who we're going to be taking on next week. So your wild card schedule, you have Jacksonville at San Diego, St. Louis at Detroit, New York at Cleveland, and Philadelphia at New Orleans. So we'll go ahead and simulate through this week. It shouldn't take too long, and then we'll go ahead and see who we're going to play next week and take a look at the results and see. Hopefully we have an easy matchup so we can try to go to the Super Bowl, because we have been slumping, like I said, losing our last 2 games. We need to get back in that win column, because we cannot lose again, and I don't want to end this series off not winning the Super Bowl. So hopefully we'll be able to do it, and we're going to be taking on the New York Jets. So let's go ahead and take a look, see what all happened in that wild card round. So let's go back to the wild card. Jacksonville lost to San Diego 35-27. St. Louis just barely was able to squeak out Detroit 24-23. The Jets were able to take care of business, obviously 23-17. Then the New Orleans Saints able to beat Philadelphia 27-9. But let's take a look at the box score of the Jets, and this is the team we're going to be playing. They end up winning in overtime, so definitely a close matchup here. Eric Hyde, the quarterback, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions thrown in this ball game. The running back had 25 carries and 112 yards, so it looked like they're definitely going to want to run the football, which plays into our favor because we do a pretty good job of keeping running backs in check. So that's what we're going to be taking on next week, you guys. I think I showed everything. If I forgot and I left something out, let me know in the comment section below, and I either try to tell you guys or try to put it in the next video. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead, leave this video a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot, and subscribe if you haven't already. It's your boy D Lloyd. I'm gonna see y'all next time. Peace.